Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to episode 10 of Vagina Double Magic, a podcast by me, Lisa Lee Curtis. Now, I didn't do a podcast this last Thursday because, long story shortened, we have our little house down here up for sale and we had to clean and get the fuck out and let some people who aren't going to buy it anyway walk through it. They loved it. It's a great little place, but they want something bigger and with property, and, well, this ain't that. And no, we're not moving back to the States or anything. We both war with that a lot, actually. Like, we'd both love to be back up in the States and be closer to family, but right now it kind of seems like the most irresponsible thing to do. Like, Daryl and I are like both, okay, no. As the way things are going up in the States like they are right now, and because we cannot predict the future, we'll stay down here in Central America in case our families need to come to us if things get worse. Life is fucking crazy, isn't it? So, yeah, I feel pretty fortunate that we were able to make this move down here, make that happen a couple of years ago. Very lucky that we were able to, well, nearly kill ourselves to make it. You know, it's not easy. It's never easy to move and an international move and everything that went with it. But yeah, so all we're doing now is keeping our eyes open for something maybe a little higher into the mountains, something a little cooler, somewhere where I can grow shit. You know, I'm not a great gardener, but I was getting the hang of it in a cooler climate. Down here, I can't grow shit. But yeah, we're not in a hurry either. So it's no big thing if we don't sell right away or, you know, ever. Because the thought of that kind of makes my skin crawl too, because then things get chaotic again. And, you know, I just hate the house on the market stage because you have to keep your house clean, which is nearly impossible to do with multiple dogs. One who sheds like a motherfucker, and then also there's the whole jungle aspect of it. Your house is never totally clean down here. I mean, it might be for a second. I mean, unless you've got like a fancy, you know, American style house, with, you know, it's completely closed up. Ours isn't. We've got screens around the top around the ceiling, and there's just more access to bugs. And, you know, we don't have a cleaning service who comes once a week, like, you know, some of the rich gringos down here. So yeah, good shit. That ain't us. So, because of all the shit in the States and economic instability, houses aren't moving down here. At first, after this last election, I thought more people would want to jump on the houses down here. But yeah, actually, nobody knows what the fuck is going to happen. So they're less likely to, you know, invest in anything or leave the country. And I totally get it. Whatever. I love this place. If it takes 5 years, I'll just sweat a lot for that much longer and never grow anything more than like basil. I can grow basil, sort of, kind of. Boo fucking who. Anyway, I'm reading this fluff piece about the guy on the reality show, The Golden Bachelor, which is, you know, from what I read, it's like the original weird as fuck, subjective, weird as fuck dating show, except for like, you know, older. Cool, great. The format is weird as fuck to me, but hey, whatever entertains people. You know, I don't care. I don't give a fuck if you want to watch reality television. I've been sucked into a few of them in the past, mostly by accident, which, of course, now it sounds like I'm some dude trying to rationalize him accidentally fucking around on someone and because his dick just accidentally fell into the vagina. But no, I honestly think that, you know, that shows how enticing these crappy shows can be. Like, for example, like 1,000 years ago when MTV was slowly pushing the music out of the whole music television thing, the series The Real World was on. And it was on like season 5 at this point. I think it was, because it was The Real World Miami. And, you know, I had absolutely zero interest in watching this shit, right? I'm like 25, very mature at this point, going, I don't watch this shit. I have no interest. I'm too busy. I work for a living, blah, blah, blah. I'm better than this. And to be fair, at this point, I'd already been a parent for nearly a decade and worked too goddamn much. And I really just wanted everyone to get off my lawn. So one day I'm at home with the kids on a weekend and they're busy playing, and my husband is, at the time, was wherever the fuck he was. I think he had a class. Who cares? But I was home doing housework and listening to music on MTV. Started my morning out with that because they were still playing it sometimes. Well, I'm elbow deep in like mop water or whatever, and noon rolls around, and then the music stops and they're doing a real world marathon because the finale was on the next day, I think it was. And I'm like, God damn it. And, you know, I'm sitting there and it's like, and this is the true story of 7 strangers picked to live in a house and start a business. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like I give a fuck. But I was nowhere near the remote and, mop water. And I'm like, whatever, I'll get to it in a second. So I'm mopping and doing stuff and I'm listening to this show, right? I'm not really watching it, but the volume had been turned up because of music. But now I'm hearing about Sarah and Dan and Joe, and I got sucked in. I got so fucking sucked into this stupid ass show. Pretty soon I'm done mopping and, I just wanted to sit on the couch for a second just to take a break. And I'm like, well, maybe I just won't turn it off just yet. Sucked in. By the end of the day, I knew these fucking people. Like, I felt like I knew these people. I still remember the husband coming home and I'm rambling about Flora and Melissa and how Melissa moved out, but she's still on the show, but she used a slur towards the gay guy on the show and that wasn't cool. And I'm just rambling on and I can hear myself, right? I can hear myself. I'm like, who am I? But it was that easy. I went from scorning this shit to I must find out what happens to these people. Yes, I absolutely watched the finale. I watched the reunion show. I haven't watched it since, but because it has to be like a total accident, It happened again in the mid-aughts with a different show. I'd come home from work and my grown daughter, who had just moved back into the house, but had immediately broken her leg and was stuck at home for a bit instead of, working at the job she had just gotten. So I come home and she's sitting on the couch watching some absolute shit. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this crap that you are watching? She's all, it's Rock of Love. The guy from, the band you used to listen to. And I'm like, ugh, yeah, okay, yeah, I've heard of this shit. Isn't this like the second season? What happened to the stripper he ended up with last season? And I said a bunch of other things indicating that I was absolutely not a fan. Sucked in again. I fucking got sucked into so much bullshit that I made my daughter wait until I got home from work to watch the next one. And then I went back and watched season 1 so I could see what happened the first time. And then we watched the next season because, surprise, Brett did not find his true love in season 2 either. I mean, he did, but then he didn't. And season 3 was called Rock of Love Bust because, they were on tour because, man, the hair metal can't play itself. And, I'll still make a face when people bring up shit like the Kardashians or The Bachelor, or Big Brother, or, and Real Housewives, which, of which there are many. I mean, holy shit, I just looked it up and, okay, I'm not listing all of them because, dude, I had no idea. But there's Beverly Hills, New York City, Atlanta, New Jersey, Dallas, Salt Lake City, fucking Dubai. And I'm like, holy shit, this is one of those shows that when I first heard of it, I'm like, okay, that's wild, but it's also wildly popular and has been for coming up on like 20 years. So I check myself. Sometimes it takes a minute or two for me to remember that I'm a fucking hypocrite. But I'll check myself because you know what? This shit is popular for a reason. I mean, 20 years of watching Rich Housewives. This was not a flash in the pan. This is escapism. The world is on fire. It has been for a while. And some of us have our own personal fucking fires. And this shit is escapism. Nothing more, nothing less. This isn't your life you're watching or other. You're watching some other shitty reality, even though we know goddamn well that so much of that reality is still scripted as fuck. But yeah, you're watching some other fucking reality other than your own. Some alternate reality to escape your own miserable fucking life for half a minute, and that's fine. That's fine as long as you maintain some sort of grasp on your own reality, which I know firsthand not everyone does. Like an old coworker's wife was super into the Housewives and Kardashians, and now she's like $100,000 deep in cosmetic surgery. I'm not even kidding. And do what you need to do to make yourself feel good about yourself. But when I saw the evolution of Sarah before these shows and then after, farm girl, super chill, started watching Real Housewives and the Kardashians, and boom, she's morphed into a likely cast member. Beautiful woman, don't get me wrong. I mean, and her fucking husband's a failure to launch baby man, and they live in a barn and is on his parents' property. So, I get her need for escapism. So yeah, I take a hot minute to go, okay, who the fuck am I to judge? Like, I absolutely watched the fucking Tiger King. Okay, I watched the Tiger King show. Are you kidding me? Of course I did. We were in the middle of a pandemic. Nothing mattered anymore. I'm watching fucking Tiger King. Got sucked in. So, and I still watch stuff. I mean, you can pry cooking competitions out of my cold, dead hands. And like some of them even started off pretty dramatic. Like, they're less so now. But those early seasons in the early aughts, they were absolutely trying to make a real world, but with professional chefs. And that I'm so glad that they have evolved away from that a bit. So anywho, back to the whole thing. I started down this road on. I was reading about how on the Golden Bachelor show, how this 66-year-old dude who is the current season's eligible bachelor, a former NFL star named Mel, he told the producers when they were, dropping their gill nets into the water for eligible bachelorettes, that he only wanted to find women between the ages of 45 and 60. This is a 66-year-old man, but he does not want anybody his age. I mean, I'm going to start right out with my praise for the quote-unquote bare minimum, which is what so many dudes crave. You know what I mean, right? Praise for not being shitty. Praise for participating in the parenting of their own children. Praise for quote-unquote helping with the housework as if he's mommy's little helper and, and not, a person who lives there and is likely making more than his share of the mess. Praise that man. So yeah, good job, Melvin, for not demanding that teenagers touch your wiener, okay? I mean, I'm sorry, but for not demanding teenagers be your bangmaid, your television soulmate. At least he's asking for adults, but still. But this guy, he's all, if they're 60 or over, I'm cutting them. And then he says, this is not the Silver Bachelor, this is the Golden Bachelor. What does that even, help me understand. He's 66. This guy whose football career began before Mount St. Helens erupted, but he wants them no older than 59 3/4, I guess, because if they're 60 or over, he's cutting them. He's 66. And probably, he would like somebody who he could have possibly been a neglectful father to back in the days of yore. Okay, got it. It's not a rarity. I've been to a strip club or 3. I've met men, especially those who wildly overestimate their market value. I've worked primarily with men over the course of my life, and most of these men were woefully unself-aware. Like, I'm sure this guy would Belichick it and saddle up with a willing granddaughter surrogate if that wouldn't completely fly in the face of the show's premise, which I kind of have to assume that it would. But hey, the world is on fire, and the United States, where this show is based, has elected a rapist to be president, so what the fuck do I know? But yeah, he's all, this isn't the Silver Bachelor, this is the Golden Bachelor. I mean, what does he mean by silver in regards to the difference from golden, which is a nod to him being in his golden age? I mean, is silver older than golden? Because, this isn't the way of the things, okay? Are women 60 to 65 somehow older than a 66-year-old? I mean, I know. A lot of these men truly believe that they're forever 18, never mind that their balls are hanging down between their knees. These dudes think that because they can impregnate someone with one foot in the grave, they're younger than the people their same age, or even younger than people who are younger than, I don't know. It's just fucking wild. And before anyone gets any sad pants feelings, this isn't ageism. I am tap dancing into my second century, and everything I have going on between my legs is a fucking horror show. I am self-aware. That's life. I will absolutely mention my own saga while laughing at drooping balls within the same breath. I do not give a fuck, nor am I turned off by older men. I'm turned off by dudes who have no clue how ridiculous they are. That's my peeve. And I'm like, thank God not all men act like this, hashtag not all men. But, I know, again, praising the bare minimum, but I still recall when Daniel Craig, the actor who last portrayed James Bond in the most recent cluster of 007 movies, being absolutely fucking annoyed when some guy who was interviewing him was all, yeah, James Bond was succumbing to the charms of an older woman, aka absolute fucking goddess Monica Bellucci. And Craig was so annoyed, visibly, because Bellucci was, I think, 51 at that time, just over 3 years older than Craig. And Daniel Craig's all, I think you mean the charms of a woman his own age. You're kidding me, right? So again, bravo. Thank you for not being a creep. So people who don't have a fully formed brain and or a brain no longer intact due to years of football-driven traumatic brain injuries and or forever numpties like Leonardo DiCaprio, they're fucking wild to me. I mean, does he think that women are in their golden years? Does the man hear himself ever? Or is he just another wealthy, retired NFLer who took too many hits to the head? I don't know. Or, I guess the guy came to his senses after a woman he personally knows points out that he sounded like a cunt. And now he's all, wow, I'd never thought of it that way. My favorite part about all that was he was telling his friend that his point of reference was dating 39 and 40-year-olds. And he's like, I hadn't dated in 26, 27 years. That's what I told her. So there's this quote from Matthew McConaughey's character in Dazed and Confused that this guy seems to be living. I keep getting older, but they keep staying the same age. Like, that's what this big dumb bag of fucking nipples excuse is. I hadn't dated in a while, so I thought I was still supposed to go for the people who were the same age I was when I last dated. And like, I know his last wife, who divorced him a few years ago, was a couple of years younger, whatever. It just seems at least adjacent to weaponized incompetence, right? Like I don't even remember who it was recently because, y'all, it's hard to keep track of every dumb fucking faux apology that a man has had to make due to his own shit behavior. Seriously, they're even more plentiful than school shootings. It used to be you could refer to a tragedy of a school shooting and you didn't have to specify which one because they weren't happening every 2 seconds. But yeah, so this is one in a long line of men who have had to make a quote unquote public statement. It was a few years ago, I think it was. Oh no, it was a few months ago actually, when Martin Kove, he's known for his role in Cobra Kai and then all the Karate Kid movies as a bad guy. He had to publicly apologize for biting his co-star. He was super sorry, y'all. He got carried away. And his statement ended with, I'm committed to learning from this and it will never happen again. Sir, good sir, you are 78 years old. What the fuck is it with dudes like this who want us to believe that they just didn't know? But now that you've pointed it out, they are committed to learning from this as they lean into that 8th decade lumbering about the planet. Guys, I didn't know. I'm just a wee man with a wee brain. So, yeah, between that guy and The Bachelor, who was all, thanks to my friend with a fully formed brain and conscience who happens to be a woman, as it turns out, I hadn't noticed till just now. I now know that I was being a silly goose. Oh, and yeah, I guess this guy also doesn't want women with plastic surgery and all that fake stuff. I mean, never mind the fact that he's had a little cosmetic help himself, including but not limited to dentures, which is 100% fine and reasonable. No one needs to defend that kind of stuff, in my opinion, but I hate the good for me, but not for thee bullshit. Come on, man. I guess there's a lot of folks who liked the wholesomeness of last year's Golden Bachelor who are like, damn, this dude's already a fucking red flag. What a bummer. We'll see. It just seems weird to have cast this dude who owed or still owes, don't know the status, his ex-wife just shy of $1 million, which includes unpaid child support and spousal support, division of property, blah, blah, blah. It seems weird to have cast this guy on a show that seems to celebrate new beginnings in your golden years when he doesn't even see people of his own age as a viable option. Oh, I mean, he does now. He's learned. Yeah, again, we'll see. And ultimately, who cares? I mean, it sounds like I do. I just yammered on about it, but it's less about this guy and more about the baby men who have been led to believe that their dick is their own personal fountain of youth or some shit. And look, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a type. I mean, you're attracted to what you're attracted to. Again, you'll get men, and what's funny is it's often men I wouldn't be interested in if the human race depended on it because fucking come on. Saying that this is coming from a jealousy of some sort and that it's deflection. It's like back in the day when I was younger and subjectively hotter, blah, blah, blah. And I'd have this guy friend coming up to me trying to get me to set them up with some absolutely deranged friend of mine because she was blonde. She was conventionally attractive. She was an aerobics instructor. She owned her own house, a nice car. She was really, from the outside, she was quite a package. She enjoyed a moderate amount of success. But she's fucking bad shit, right? Like, I loved her. She was my friend, but she's a fucking nightmare. But these two different dudes, two different guys who I was friends with at different times, they were hoping I could arrange a meeting with her. And, they wanted me to set them up with her, but I wouldn't do that to them because they were my friend. But, they're going off their base visual desire. And like one specifically said, I don't get why you won't set me up with her. Are you jealous? No. You know what? I'm just like, with both of these men, I'm like, you know what? Fine. You asked for that. You asked for this. Please remember this. And both times, after a date or two and the ensuing madness, they were like, help. And oh my God, why didn't you warn me? Another guy who had a visual type and it would cloud his brain from anything further. Same thing. I love this guy. I love him so much. He's actually one of my friends, but he would go for these random women of a certain aesthetic, women I knew who were, let's just say, not great. And he'd ask my opinion and I'd give it. And he's like, oh no, they're different when they're away from other people. And he'd go for it anyway. And then the next thing you know, he's got a stalker. And then I get this, oh, dude, you gotta help me. I'm like, no, my brother in Christ, I fucking warned you. You did not listen to me. You were going off how your dick was responding to her outer shell. And I get that. I absolutely get that, but I absolutely did fucking warn you. I'd like to think their baseline for what they found attractive evolved over the years, but who the fuck knows? Not my circus, not my monkeys. But yeah, there's truly nothing wrong with you knowing what you are and absolutely are not attracted to. I get that. I mean, some people get real fucking touchy about people having, physical attributes that they catch their eye. And hey, that's just how people are wired. And a lot of times it's because something got locked in at some point in your life. I used to like a certain type of guy. I have absolutely learned and moved on from what I once thought was my quote unquote ideal. I mean, that comes with maturity. And I think it's changed a few times for me. And I mean, we could totally dig into the psychology and the biology of attraction, but we'd be sitting here with me yammering on for another year and no one wants that. But I went to a book reading given by author and psychologist Jesse Bering to support his book, Perv, The Sexual Deviant in All of Us. It was absolutely fascinating. He went into various manifestations of desire and how there's a spectrum of perversion. And I'm using air quotes here for perversion because that word in and of itself is both subjective and wildly misused anyway. But how there's a spectrum of perversion or sexual desire that is for each of us as unique as our fingerprints, right? And it's valid. And that the best route to understanding a lot of what we call a perversion is that there's a lot of troubling shit that hinges on how sex has been studied over the years and studied with a faux morality that's not based in humanity. Like, don't get me started on how being gay was perceived and the absolutely horrific things that were done in the name of, quote unquote, fixing that perversion. Bering went into the horror story that is gay conversion therapy during this talk, and it brought me to tears. It was fucking terrible, nightmarish, ghoulish. But it was considered a perversion, and they were literally killing people to exercise that perversion like a demon. So, yeah, the book reading was super informative, heartbreaking, sometimes funny, and there was just a lot, and I highly recommend it. And like I love the author said, I can't promise you an orgasm at the end of our adventure. He wrote this in his prelude to it, but I can promise you a better understanding of why you get the ones you do. And this is everything from I prefer blondes to I really can't get off unless a woman's stocking feet are involved to shit that's harmful and illegal. We are complicated meat popsicles. So to circle around, do I think this sports ball relic guy is the devil for suggesting that he didn't want somebody his age? No, I mean, I not for this. Do I think that any of these guys are the devil for merely finding someone attractive? And I'm not talking about kids. We're not talking about creepy uncles or sitting or former presidents. I'm talking about just finding conventionally attractive, and this means a little something different to everyone within the description of conventional, but conventionally attractive people, attractive, whatever, who cares? And by attractive, I should just say aesthetically pleasing. Okay, I'm not saying, you shouldn't be concerned if you're attracted to younger people. It's like when I used to find only tall men attractive. A lot of people have a thing. They're still an eye catcher for me, just like swimsuit models are to a lot of people. They're shiny. But again, for me, I got over the eye catcher being this is the only person who will touch my vagina because, again, for me, I had a series of very tall boyfriends by accident, just kind of happened that way. And so this became my type. But then after a really fun evening where I went home with some guy who was maybe an inch taller than me, and I realized, oh, holy shit, we actually fit so well together. And like this was an epiphany for me. So like a super tall guy might still catch my eye, but then I remember that I have deteriorating vertebrae in my neck and it hurts to look up too much, and that it's nice to not have my face in someone's chest hair when they're on top of me. Or like dudes who have an initial, oh, at someone, at a woman because she's a redhead. That shit comes from somewhere. It doesn't mean he's a fucking fetishist. Not really. That is until they become a fetishist and it makes it their entire personality. And when you have dudes who can't fucking see how silly they look when they cannot mentally or physically progress beyond a certain point in their life and then go, oh, wow, it never occurred to me, not even once, that women over 60 were people or, whatever. When it boils down to it, I mean, I'm not tearing this guy and people like him a new one because it personally affects me. It doesn't. There's literally zero chance in hell that if something were to happen to my partner and I was single again, that I'd want to do a legal union ever again. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy with this man who puts up with me, but doing it again, no, it's been a good run. I'd fly solo from here on out. And B, that I'm sad because young guys don't want me. First of all, a few do for some reason, and I don't understand. And that's because, like a lot of these guys, the attraction to me is not based on reality. It's based on some idea of me. And yeah, I have absolutely zero interest in young men or young women, like seeing as I'm flamingly bisexual, pansexual, queer, whatever. Years ago, I went to a strip club in my late 30s and I realized the dancer was a year younger than my daughter. And I'm like, nope, done. Check, please. No, thank you. I felt like a skeeve. That's one of the perks for me anyway, as I know it doesn't stop a lot of people, but that's one of the perks or hazards or call it what you will of having your first kid as a teenager. The dating pool or the dancers, they end up making you feel like a fucking creep. So yeah, you do you, but try not to look like a ridiculous pair of clown shoes in the process. That's all I'm saying. And for fuck's sake, if you're one of these numpties who trips over your own dick to make yourself look bad on the regular, maybe hire a better handler to keep you in check. And let's be real. Sometimes we all need to get ourselves in check. I know I do. I'll go off half-cocked about something. Okay, now I'm going to have to look that up. Where did half-cocked come from? I mean, that's got to be a weaponry thing, right? Like, cock the gun, not a John fucking Bobbitt thing. And I think we all know that I'm not making fun of Lorena. She did nothing wrong. Hashtag Team Lorena. May we all chop the dicks off of our abusers. Anyway, yes, just looked. Man, I love the internet. It's in regard to not fully cocking your firearm, very old-timey phrase from when the old flintlock or matchlock guns and the hammer that had a half-cocked position as a safety mechanism, which prevented the hammer from striking the flint against the pan, so like a safety in modern guns. So yeah, half-cocked describes actions or statements made without sufficient consideration or planning, similar to how a firearm would fail to fire if not properly cocked. Sorry about all that. I just needed to know for sure, and now so do you if you didn't already. So maybe this is a great example of how I need a handler, someone to say, hey, stick to the topic. Stop looking up old-timey sayings like half-cocked. We all do need to check ourselves, though, here and there. We need to take time to consider what flies out of our mouths so that we can not be half-cocked, but fully cocked. How do I not make a sex joke out of this? Anyway, okay, that's where I'm going to end it. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you I'd say next week. Might be sooner. Who knows?